Hi all. One of the amazing virtues of studying knight c6 with the black pieces, the Nimzovich defense, is that not only you learn a highly provocative strategy to get the opponent to create weaknesses, but also you can even play it with white, and I have been playing it with white and beating quite good players, generally speaking, very good results. It gets people really out of book, so you can actually play a reverse tango with knight c3. And I had a recent 3-minute game with Peter Svidler, who was with the nickname Moose959 on Lichess, an astronomically high rating. And I would like to show you this 3-minute game just for instructive purposes. So d5, e4, he let me tango the knight. So knight e2, black is creating light square weaknesses. And he did actually say in his commentary he has trouble against this kind of system. Knight c6, knight f3, we have h5. Is there a downside of this h5? Could it be a target later? h4, knight f6. And it's an intriguing position. I played bishop c4 and he closes up his c8 bishop. d3, knight g4, a3 to give my bishop a square on a2 if needed, bishop e7, and now I put the bishop on a2, b6, queen e2, and he has a very aggressive idea of castling queen side, so bishop b7, he's not castling on the king side. After knight g5, queen c7, after my next move there were very interesting comments by Peter Svidler. So Peter Svidler is a top Grandmaster, top Super Grandmaster. Guess what I played in this position if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay. Knight takes h5. And I've had this tactic before, and I've done very well with this tactic in general. Now, what happened here, I find, from a psychology perspective, to be extremely interesting. During his commentary, when I checked it out, he said basically Queen c7 is asking to lose, and he's like messing up the tournament. And I think he was on the verge of resigning. He said basically it's completely lost for black. And I have won from similar positions with a knight takes h5, but what happened next was psychologically interesting, I have to say. It's a 3-minute game, and he spent, I believe, over a minute on this next move. And it's interesting, just statistically as well, what happened. Bishop takes g5. I've got so many options to consider here. It's remarkable. Which are kind of wham bang in nature, like bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes. There's 3 major options here, and I managed to, it seems, pick the absolute worst option, and I really wondered how on earth did I pick the worst option possible? I wonder if you had to rank the 3 options from these 3, what rank would you put them in? You might want to pause the video. I'll give you 10 seconds to pause the video. Have a ranking of these 3. So what order would you think? Because I've got engine evaluations on all 3 here to tell you. So you might want to pause the video here and pick your best 3 in order. So is your favourite move bishop takes g5 followed by whatever, or queen takes, or is it knight takes? What's your order as well? Okay, I'm going to reveal now. The worst one to pick is queen takes g4, and I wonder, I would like to internalize exactly why. The thing is, in this position, that knight was actually, it had to move anyway, so I've just taken away a piece from the board where it had to kind of move after, so I've given the opponent a kind of tempo actually on a plate. That's the thing with that. If we contrast that to bishop takes, the knight still has to move. If bishop takes, the knight still has to move here. Because, well, there is rook takes h5. I guess this complicates it. There's rook takes h5. But anyway, I'll give you the engine order here. The engines think knight takes g7 check is actually around +5. So, for example, king f8. Let's look at king f8 first. Bishop takes g5. And he takes that. Well, I'm just taking here. And this is just really nice, this position. My extra pawn, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, two extra pawns. And the king is weak. This is just a really crushing thing. Maybe black can do that, but you know, this is absolutely crushing. Yeah, so knight takes g7 just leaves the knight hanging, really. I don't know. I think I was very confused. I didn't rationally check out what was really going on. I wasn't really comparing the differences. Maybe I was in a kind of mindset, oh, any of them will do. But leaving a piece hanging, so they have to waste another move, is a little upside of knight takes g7. And if king e7 instead, then that runs into bishop takes g5 check, and then queen takes g4. And this is just fantastic. So knight takes g7 is one of the top choices here. Whatever happens, it's one of the top choices. Another choice is bishop takes g5. This is like the second ranked choice. So it leaves the knight hanging. Okay, there's rook takes h5 though. So let's go rook takes h5. So I would eliminate the knight. But here, there is another threat to deal with. So what black has to waste another move. So I suppose a consideration here is also, by the way, that the bishop cuts off the king from castling. So if the king has to also waste time, like the rook then has to move, it's a bit of a waste of time for black. And f6 is never possible because of e6. So even this f4 becomes possible. That's just going to be a disaster for black. So what does black actually do here? It's a very, very nice position indeed. So that's just a really nice possibility. Actually, also, there is h takes g5, which is another very strong possibility, around +4. So in fact, technically, as far as my limited analysis goes, this could actually be the second strongest, potentially, to knight takes g7, h takes g5. It protects the knight. It hits this knight. There's possibilities of knight f6. Concretely, if knight ge5, knight takes g7 check, king e7 protecting that rook. And here, there's rook h6. Now, if rook h6 isn't played, then maybe, you know, black gets some practical chances, actually. It's only a 3-minute game. But yeah, rook h6 is the strongest, just to establish a reinforcement of g7. It's like minimal hassle. But yeah, it's only a 3-minute game, so you could say, well, who cares? Anyway, I just thought it was interesting that with this reverse tango, I could get such a position where there's all these very, very interesting possibilities now. After bishop takes g5, black is in severe trouble. It's just a lot of possibilities to try and calculate all at once, so I ended up just choosing a random one, I guess. This is why you need more time in chess to find a better move. To find a move with greater irreversible damage does require a time investment and not just playing on the back of intuition. So I managed to pick the absolute worst possibility. This was my chance to beat a super grandmaster in Blitz, and I completely mess it up with queen takes g4. In fact, maybe even after objectively, I know you shouldn't analyze Blitz games, but yeah, bishop takes c1, and he commented, this is like the lamest way of exploiting. He thought it would be much worse. I play rook takes here. At this point, knight takes g7, as I kind of thought, it runs into potential self-pins. If we have this position where that knight's pinned, I didn't like the idea of self-pins. That is something I kind of observed. It's not that great. with the self pins in a practical sense. So anyway, yeah, I just thought it was kind of amusing. I thought I'd raise this idea of so many choices, and how do you compare and contrast what are the best ones? You know, maybe one idea is, you know, how much time do they have to waste after whatever you take? What are the micro upsides? A bishop without a counterpart, though, from just a positional perspective, I would argue, like now, objectively, that, you know, bishop takes g5 is a dark square bishop without a counterpart, stopping the king castling. It just seems like a great move, and with this threat still that black has to parry. So there's a certain amount of influence if they have to still parry a threat. So yeah, it's got micro positional upsides as well. So it's very, very different. It's very interesting as well to compare and contrast, you know, what actually happens with all these different options. So anyway, so in the game, back to the game. So bishop takes, rook takes, and it's just absolutely lame. In fact, black should objectively castle queenside here. And that was absolutely fine for black here. Absolutely brilliant. For example, this is a lot of play for black. But g6 was inserted, and I still had a chance to play knight f6 here, which apparently, you know, it stops black castling again. And there is this queen g5. The thing is here, there's double check. I know this is the sort of thing you just wouldn't calculate in a 3-minute game, and white could end up with an edge, a significant knight outpost edge. So black's best, you know, technically here would be to just carry on the checks. So after knight f6, just to go into the, you know, the double check discovery again, in theory. So anyway, I completely blew it though with knight g3, and the impressive skills of Peter Svidler, I mean, they are absolutely astounding. So he's got like less than a minute, and I've got a whole extra minute, and he drums up so much counterplay here. So he makes his king a bit safer, and this is a real positional disaster for me, e5, because he's got that bishop just wanting to use that diagonal, and the knight just wanting to use f5. So a positionally disastrous move, e5. For example, yeah, I mean, there are better moves than e5 basically at move 18, like queen g5. And this would be a way of connecting the rooks without getting zapped immediately. So that should be about okay as well. But e5 is a total positional disaster move. And yeah, I mean, he plays g5 here, and all of a sudden, I'm crumbling. I've got a pin here. I've got undermining here. He's got a massive bishop. My bishop's pathetic. He's got a fantastic knight. It's all collapsing totally now. This is just spectacular how it collapses. But I cannot blame the opening. I have done well with this reverse tango, and still felt, you know, maybe I should discuss this epic moment of disaster. And yes, he just scoops up loads of my pawns coming down like Space Invaders, and no, I didn't win on time. He's just crashing through, and I kind of gave up here. Okay, so fantastic comeback there, but I had him on the ropes there. And I have had good results with this opening in general against lesser players. Obviously, you don't get to play super grandmasters that much. So I'm just saying that this tango with white is an interesting system. It was brought up by someone on Chess24 at some point to play it in reverse. It is one of the moves you can, if you research it with black, you can actually play knight c3 in reverse. And this was a really, really decent position, because you can see that the light squares are pretty good. And this is actually a common plan, actually, h5, to try and drive the knight away from g3. So this has happened quite a bit. I've had a lot of blitz games. I've actually won with this knight takes h5 tactic, but just not on this occasion, unfortunately. And I have to say, I think I was thinking about the course. It just popped into my head as well. I should try and win this, because I thought it would be good to promote this course. So it's a total disaster on all fronts. But anyway, I thought at least I could do this video to show you how sometimes there's so many options, And if the opponent spends a long time and you think that any of them will do, it's that combination. There's a lot of options and you think you've got massive time advantage. So any of them will do. But it's not the case, especially if you're playing against a super grandmaster. You've really got to get maximum, irreversible damage. That moment for maximum irreversible damage, not just a little bit of damage, maximum. Otherwise, you can expect the super grandmaster to come back. And I really helped him come back as well with E5. So I thought it was an interesting kind of emotional moment for me. People are actually saying on his stream, oh, give him it, oh, it's his moment, give him it. Hey, I know it's only a 3-minute game, but in this tournament I did actually beat David Howell actually in a great cracking game, which I might show you soon if you really want. Just let me know if you want me to go over that game. But I thought this was really interesting emotionally, and how, in Blitz, if the opponent is super strong and they take a lot of time, and they make you less kind of discerning because they've taken so much time, you think, okay, I'll just go with this. That's a way of encouraging a comeback when you say, oh, I'll just go with this. You want maximum irreversible damage, and that didn't happen here. I hope you got something out of this video, and maybe try one knight c3 as a really novel weapon of choice sometimes. I think it's especially interesting on blitz chess. And if you want to know the theory in reverse from the black side, which you can use in reverse essentially, with the white pieces even, there is Kingscrusher TV /opening Tango. I've applied a coupon code already to that, but for the next 3 days there's also, you can apply the YouTube coupon for even greater discount. So that's the next 3 days from the time of this video. I'll try and keep that main URL with a basic, with quite a good discount code though. So for the next 30 days there is quite a decent one for Kingscrusher TV /opening Tango. So it's a system you can really use with the white pieces as well as the black pieces. Okay, comments, questions, like, share, subscribes with the notification bell, really appreciated. Thanks very much.